Hey friends, welcome to the channel. I'm Tirso. In this Q&A video, we are talking about design paralysis. Here is a preview of the questions, so you can skip around. There could be two things happening here. Either the content doesn't fit the format, or you have a preconceived idea of what the final design could be and you're not seeing it. So the first suggestion would be to take a break, but when you come back to the project, work iteratively. For example, here are 3 different type lockups with hero images. Here are the same lockups, each set up with 2 different grids. I would then design 3 options each. This is just my way of working iteratively. The goal isn't to make the perfect design on the first try. The goal is to explore so you can see what's working, and then you can make more strategic designs in the versions after. I first want to say that relying on the same grid isn't necessarily a bad thing. I almost strictly use a 7-column grid, which I have been doing for the last decade. I love that grid, and no one is going to tell me otherwise. A benefit to using the same grid is you become a master of the space in that grid, which makes you a faster designer. So if you are delivering consistent results, don't fix what isn't broken. With that said, it might just be that you're bored with what your layouts are looking like, which definitely happens, but I do want to clarify that just because we're bored with our layouts doesn't mean our clients are. So I would challenge, is the grid the actual issue, or is it more about exploring a different design style or changing color palette? If it is the grid, try out a 5 or 7 column grid. Shameless plug, check out my video on 5 and 7 column grids. This is actually very common. Execution and ideation are different muscles, which is why we have to train both. It sounds like you've mastered the end of the design process, so now shift all of your energy to mastering the beginning of the design process, which is where brainstorm and concepting happen. Start with small ideas first. Also, be present in your brainstorms and listen to the ideas of other people. I think that might be part of the struggle, is if you work independently, you're just not exposed to as many ideas from different perspectives. Even still, I think it's more about habit building than it is anything else. You could do design challenges and give yourself small prompts. Make sure you're using a timer because that forces your brain to think. Also, we don't have all the time in the world on actual projects. When it comes to brainstorming, I also recommend using a notebook so you could write and or sketch. And the more you do this, the easier it'll become. Ideally, great work should inspire you, not discourage. But what's happening here is the Instagram effect. You are comparing your progress to someone else's highlight reel. That designer probably had to work through quite a bit to get to that final design, and we're not seeing the road they had to take to get there. It's always good to recognize great design because that gives you something to work towards. As long as you keep going, you will get there, and when you do, another designer starting out is going to feel the exact same way about your work. When I first started designing, it would take me hours to do 3 options, and my boss could do it in like 20 minutes. So I was just fascinated how quickly they could solve things. Over a decade later, I am actually much faster than that now. Some designers look at my work the same way, so this is really just a cycle that everyone goes through. I think the best approach here is the concept of the 3 options. The one the client is asking for, a version you like, and one that's a departure. The 2 versions you have control over are the second and the third. For the option that you like, see how far you can push the brand guidelines. Changing the color palette is probably going to be a tough sell, but you can try introducing tiny stylistic choices like rounded corners, or maybe it's making the type bold or delicate depending on what they're currently using. For the version that's a complete departure, this is your opportunity to present new ideas. You do have to be practical here because it still needs to look like the brand. If it's too foreign, it's going to be a little bit harder to convince them. Something to consider might be a different approach to photography or new elements that you can incorporate into the design, but your ideas will be taken more seriously if you present them as a way to help evolve the brand. So what other obstacles are you dealing with that's making you feel stuck? Drop them in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.